But I do believe in magic. In this box I've got some magic. Real magic. Not a trick, not an illusion. I think it's fascinating. Other people go, oh yeah, it's not that interesting. Because it depends on how you look at things. What is it? A compass. What do you have in a compass that makes it work? Pins, yeah. But what's special about the pin? A magnet. It's a magnetised pin or needle or a bit of metal. A magnet. Now I think magnets are magical. They do magical things. They don't connect to anything and yet they work. They have these waves of magnetism, but they never sort of wear out. They'll last forever, a magnet. You can heat it up, you can drop it and it can lose its magnetism. But you just leave a magnet on its own. I think that's pretty magical. My book is set in a future world where it's got cold and it's all frozen. Everything's frozen over. Snowball Earth. There's a scientific word for it. It's called Snowball Earth. It's where the Earth gets frozen. All the seas are frozen. They're all ice. In my book, they need to get across this ice, so they sail across it. So they just use boats. They just use sails. The only difference is their boats have got runners on the bottom, and they slide across the ice. There's two twins that are escaping persecution, and they sail across the ice, and they crash on the islands of Hexult. Hexult is the name of the 7 little islands in the middle of the ice, by a big crack in the ice. Anyway, they crash on these islands, and they have been to school. The islands of Hexult, they don't have schools. They're a little bit more behind. And they turn up, and they have a thing called a magic hand. A magic hand shows them the way. It's how they manage to cross the ice. The islanders have never seen anything like this before. They're the ones that name it in a magic hand. They think it's magical. It points the way. I'd say whether you think that's just a little bit of science or whether you think that's a bit of magic depends on how you look at it, where you're standing, when you're standing. Historically, people thought things were magic that we now call science. And I'd say the two are really different words for the same thing, depending on your perspective. Your perspective is how you look at it. Right. So if you want to sail across a bit of the sea, and you want to go that way, and the mist might come down, it might be night, cloudy. If you go that way, you might fall off the edge of the earth, because you don't know the earth's round yet. All you need is to make a compass. Does anyone know how to make a compass? Yes.
Cup of water, magnet.
Cup of water and a magnet. Yes. You can make a compass using a magnet, and then you've got to stop the friction. So you can hang it on a bit of cord, or you can float it on some water. How do you make the magnet? Here's your compass. So what they use there is a needle. Someone's magnetised a needle. How do you magnetise a needle? Yeah?
Do you have this metal?
No. Close though. I said, oh, I thought you'd have all built these. What do you do at home? What do you tell you and stuff? Yeah? You rub a needle down a magnet and it magnetises it. I think that's absolutely magic. No idea how it works. And the trick is you must only do it one way. Do it 2 days, it won't work. Just rub a needle down a magnet. So it's ever so simple. You make a magnet using a magnet, which is also quite magical. The only trouble is, where do you get the magnet from to start with?
B&Q.
B&Q. Stone Age B&Q, yes, exactly. eBay. Trouble is, thousands of years ago, they didn't have magnets. So where did they get one from? A couple of thousand years ago, you'd have been in a mud hut, and your dad would have sent you out to get tea. And being no shops, you'd have taken the spear with you to try and hunt something. And if you're advanced enough, your spear would have an iron tip to it. So you've got a woodsmith iron tip, and you're a teenager. So what do? You mess about. You bend the tip of your iron, you bend the tip of your dad's spear, so you're in trouble. So what you decide you're going to do is straighten it out. So you pick up a rock. You pick up a rock and you try and smash the spear and straighten it with this rock. But your spear keeps sticking to it because this rock displays magical properties. You take it back to your dad and he says, wow, that's magic. This is magnetite. This is a boring piece of rock that laid in the middle of the earth somewhere until it was spat out of a volcano or came out of an earthquake or just gently crawled to the surface using plate tectonics. I don't know how it got up here because it didn't start up here. But then it laid on the surface of the earth for thousands of years. And if that wasn't hard work enough, this poor little rock, something magical happened to it. The only way this became magnetic is by having an electrical force pass through it, or passing itself through an electrical force. Where did we have electricity 60,000 years ago? How did that rock become magnetised? Lightning. Yeah, this rock. The only way this rock became magnetite, was being hit by lightning, which I think is pretty amazing. 1,000 times a day the Earth gets hit by lightning. 1,000 times a day. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I looked it up. I believe it, but that's what it said on Wikipedia. Yes, that's the most advanced I get looking on Wikipedia. I usually do. I'll tell you where I do most of my research in a minute. 1,000 times a day, 360 days a year, 60,000 years. That's a lot of times. So I'm starting to believe maybe it did get hit by lightning. They found these, chipped little bits off, and used them as compasses. They call them lodestones. If you read some books, you'll see lodestones. Lodestones, magnetite, magnets, compasses.